Today, I'm going to be talking about an awesome movie that I still love and I've loved since I was 11 years old. The movie, of course, is Jaws. Jaws was released on June 20th, 1975. It changed my life and it changed the movie industry. Many people regard Jaws as sort of the birth of the summer blockbuster because Jaws really was a social phenomenon. Everywhere you looked, it was on TV, it was on magazine covers, it was on people's t-shirts. It was just a huge social phenomenon. And really, it was the first film that became such a mega, massive success that it kind of shifted the way that the movie industry thinks about summer films and what kind of market impact they have. So today we are going to jump into my life as an 11-year-old kid and the life of my wonderful dear friend Bruce Peterson. Now, any of you who have watched my podcast have heard me speak countless times about my friend Bruce. That's because Bruce and I were essentially attached at the hip from the time that we met in first grade as 6-year-olds. And not only did we remain friends all throughout elementary school, but through junior high and high school. Then when we moved out of our parents' homes, we moved into a house together with our other lifelong friend to create a band, and we became professional musicians, and we played together all through the 80s and 90s, and actually we played recently. This is going to be really a lot of fun. I've invited my friend Bruce to come and talk about memories of that time and what we remember about the impact that Jaws had on our lives. My very first memory of Jaws was the book. Jaws was a huge bestseller, #1 bestseller. If you can imagine as a kid looking up at this cover of this creature, this horrifying shark swimming up towards this naked woman swimming on the surface of the water. I mean, I was pretty much sold on the idea from the moment I saw the book. Then slowly, we started finding out, they're making this movie about this book, Jaws. My friend Bruce and I, one of the things we used to do when we were kids was we watched a show called Nightmare Theater, which was a local television show where they would present kind of classic horror monster movies on Friday nights. And it was such a great show. I remember pretty much every Friday night, Bruce and I, either I'd be staying at his house or he'd be staying at my house, and we'd watch Nightmare Theater, and they showed all the great classics, Frankenstein, Dracula, the Mummy, the Wolfman, all of those, the Invisible Man. And they also showed a healthy dose of sci-fi horror films that came out after that in the 50s and 60s, the really awful, cheesy, but very fun science fiction and monster movies and stuff like that. But we had never seen anything like Jaws. Jaws was like serious gore. It was like in your face horror, and we had never seen anything like that.
The summer of Jaws,
yes,
is such a turning point for both of us.
Totally,
I'm sure.
Totally, yeah.
Tell them about the drive-in theater that was down where we lived in Kenmore, Washington.
Yes. And the amazing thing, I don't know if I've shown you this, but I have about a 3-second clip of footage that I shot of the theater in Kenmore. And of course, you folks will be seeing it right now.
How did you get that clip? I have no idea.
I believe I was testing my new Yashica Super 8 camera, and we went down to Kenmore and I just shot some.
Like a drive-by?
Yeah. And it's amazing. And so this theater that I'm going to show you here was right in the center of the town that we grew up in, Kenmore. It was the World Trade Center of Kenmore. It's hard to describe how magical that was.
It was like the hub of the weekend activity for the entire community, really, especially when a blockbuster came through. But
totally,
this movie, for some reason, was different than anything that we had gone to see at that theater, because most of the time we were younger kids and we were just more interested in playing because they have little playgrounds and stuff the drive-in.
At the drive-in,
You can be at the snack bar playing in the
playground
merry-go-rounds.
Yeah.
But this movie, we actually sat still
Yes.
in the car,
Yes.
mesmerized from the opening scene till the very end.
Yes. I mean, truly. And the fact that the movie was about, a summer resort town, and we were, it was summertime,
Yep.
and our parents would take us to the drive-in movies, which was I'm going to do a whole podcast about that, about just the drive-in movie experience. But to watch Jaws on a warm summer night outside at a drive-in theater, it was magical, totally magical. And I don't know if you remember, I saw Jaws before you and Scott saw Jaws. And my parents I begged them, and of course I was able to get them to do pretty much anything I wanted. That. Yeah. And so the first time that you and Scott saw Jaws, my mom took the three of us down to the theater to Kenmore Drive-In to watch Jaws. And I don't know if you remember this, but as every moment came up, every moment when something was about to happen, yes, I go, okay, here it comes.
Get ready.
Okay, get ready. It's coming.
That's right. Now it's coming back. You did see it, and you had to go, and I think I was a little upset that you went to see it before me for some reason.
I bet.
And then, of course, you had to spoil it, and the biggest scene of all, the scene of Ben Gardner's head coming out of the sunken or halfway sunken fishing boat.
I totally just ruined all of those thrill moments for you guys.
Well, I'll tell you, that scene still just affected me.
Yes. Because we saw it recently.
Yeah, well, we were in horror. Yeah, we just saw the 3D reproduction, but that scene, which actually turns out to have been an afterthought.
Yeah.
After the film, after all the production and everything was in the can, they decided to add one more shock. They wanted to put one more scream, is what Spielberg says. I think I can get one more scream out of him.
Yes.
Which he did, because that turned out to be the most monumental scene for me as a kid to see that. And, being a fan of horror, we saw Ben Gardner's head come out of
That's right.
And we saw Quint get bitten in half, and all the gore from Jaws.
Totally.
Was,
You're right when you say that we had never seen anything like that stuff.
Right.
Yeah. When we saw it, I guess it was 6 months ago.
Yeah.
I was amazed at how that film is so potent even to this day.
Then let's talk about the disclaimer.
As all you Jaws fans know, Spielberg was told by the ratings board that it was going to be given an R rating. And apparently the producer, Zanuck or Brown, basically negotiated a deal with the ratings board that if they put this disclaimer,
maybe too intense for younger children, what was the result of that disclaimer?
Made me want to see it all the more.
Right. All the kids had to go see it now.
Yes. So it was genius. It was truly genius.
Your goal is to keep parents or make parents aware and don't have your kids see the movie. Well, guess what? They just triple the audience.
Totally. And for us, when we were growing up, most of the movies we saw were G, but then we would see stuff like a James Bond movie, which would be a PG.
Yep.
But never in our wildest imagination would we have ever even begun to entertain the thought of our parents letting us see anything that was rated R. That was like almost like X to us when we were,
of course,
we were kids. So for us, when we got to see Jaws that had this, maybe too intense, that was just like part of the allure of the whole thing.
Yeah. They had to try to create suspense without actually using the mechanical shark.
The shark, which was also part of what makes it such a great film, is that it's not in your face all the time, and by the time you see it, you're like desperate. It's like, I want to see this thing, and then suddenly,
finally you get some good eye full shots, especially near the end. But other than that, it's just some teaser shots and a fin.
Yeah, Finn. Yes. It's a brilliant movie. It really is. And it spawned, of course, a bunch of rip-offs. And I don't know if you've thought about this, or I've been thinking about some of the rip-offs. The one that really jumps out to me that I remember really paying attention to was Grizzly. Do you remember Grizzly?
I don't know if I even actually took the time to watch Grizzly.
Well, I never saw it, but I remember the art was very Jaws-like.
Yep.
It was I think a guy and a girl sitting at a campfire, and this massive grizzly is looming over them, very Jaws-ish. And then there was Piranha. Was another one, which I actually just recently bought on Blu-ray because I wanted to see it.
Right. And
it's
then Mako, Jaws of Death.
Which is a story we have to tell.
Yeah.
So you tell about how we went to Kmart one day.
Well, we would, since we didn't have video VHS type stores.
There was no home theater then.
No
there was
Blockbuster.
there was no home video. There was no such thing as videotape. So if you wanted to watch a movie or even cartoons or whatever, if it wasn't on TV, you couldn't see it unless you bought Super 8 film.
Yeah, there was this copy of a film called Mako, Jaws of Death.
Yes.
And the cover of the box, which I'm sure you're probably showing
yes,
right now.
I am, yeah.
Is looks in a way to be sort of a Jaws menacing type story.
Yes, and of course, so the way that the title is, it's Mako in big lettering, and then the in small lettering, and then Jaws in big red lettering of death. It was an obvious total scam.
Yeah,
and it totally
low budget production. And
we were with my mom. She took us to Kmart. We saw it. We bought it sight unseen, no idea what it was, except that it said Jaws, and it had a shark with a woman's body in its mouth. That's all we knew.
We loaded it up and realized right off the bat. We knew, I'm sure ahead of time, it was going to be stupid. Oh, okay. Well, I figured it was probably some cheap knockoff, but
you were smart. You were more aware than I was. I thought it's a shark.
Well, I thought nothing could compare to Jaws. I mean, so. And we hadn't really heard much about it. It was almost like a made-for-TV movie.
Yeah,
what I thought.
But I also want to talk about when we tried to make a shark movie. Now, what's your recollection about that?
Oh, I remember obsessing about the whole concept.
Yeah,
and then of course, our biggest obstacle was how are we going to get? Because I was having total visions about how we're going to make our own mechanical shark.
Yes.
We were going to go full scale.
Totally. Me too.
We just didn't have the materials, obviously, to do it. But I had started making a shark frame. It immediately fell apart and started floating away.
Yes. And as I remember it, it was you built the frame, then we put clear plastic tarp over it and spray painted it gray. That's what I remember of it.
That's it.
I don't remember anything about what we did for teeth or the.
I don't even know if we even got to the point of making a head.
Well, that's all I remember.
Was there a head?
The head. That's all I remember about it. So when we went to Juanita Beach to film with Daniel, we did have a fin, which is in the film. We made a fin, and there is a shot of that. And then we have Daniel swimming to get his ball that had been thrown past him. And to my recollection, we brought that huge mess of this thing that we had built that was supposed to be
our parents drive us.
Yeah. And it was just the front end. It was just like from the tail, the back, or the front edge of the tail to the nose. That was as much as we had of it.
Oh, okay.
And my memory, we took it out, and literally within a minute of putting it in the water, just completely fell apart.
We might have tried to use a staple gun. I don't even know.
Yes. We did.
We tried that.
Yes, that's right. That's how we fused the frame together, the pieces of wood. Yeah, that's what it was. And I do remember being super disappointed about that we couldn't do the shark movie because, like you, I had just fantasized about this, what it was going to look like. And,
right.
Yeah.
I think maybe even that was like a test shot.
We hadn't finalized a shooting script or anything. Yeah.
So, in a sense, it was more of just a test failure that we ended up abandoning that project altogether. But
that makes sense.
Funny that I have my young kid now loving the movie. I kind of feel bad in a way that I exposed him to this amount of gore at such a young age because I think he was 12 when he first. But then that was
that's
the
age
we were 12, right? When it came out.
Yeah. You waited to the right moment.
Yeah. So. No, he thinks it's a great movie too, but the climax of the film where Quint gets crunched by the shark and the blood spattering out of his mouth, I mean, that was definitely the other giant moment in our lives.
It was so thrilling to see that kind of display of horror and gore and just there's no way around it. When we were kids, I remember being not super fascinated with gore, but I remember blowing up G.I. Joes with firecrackers and stuff like that.
Oh, and we were always trying to figure out ways to make fake blood, and we researched it. I think we tried to.
That's
right. The best one was the K-Rose syrup.
Syrup. One thing I remember about the book is after the movie became a huge hit, I asked my mom if I could read the book, and she said, "Oh, sure." So I read the book, and the book had a bunch of really nasty stuff in it. And she didn't know that. She thought, "Oh, it's the
Matt Hooper and Brody's wife."
Yes. And I was reading. I mean, I'm a 12-year-old kid reading about this stuff, and I'm like, "What in the world is this?" She has a fantasy of them getting in a car wreck and how they, just really weird stuff. Yeah, I think that they did a brilliant job of taking all of the best elements of that story and turning it into to me, the movie is actually a very different experience than the book, and Spielberg was a genius for turning it into what he made it into.
And it's the whole concept of tourists getting and eaten alive.
Totally.
I mean, that's just enough right there, really. They were able to build an entire script around just that. So.
I can't imagine how other people perceive Jaws. I think some people think of it as this kind of, it's this novelty horror movie. And to me, especially the last time that we went to see it, I was watching it thinking, this is literally just one of the best films I've ever seen. It's it's the acting and the script. And the way that it's portrayed is so human and real.
The dialogue is, spot on.
Yeah.
In my opinion, and maybe yours too, it comes close to being the perfect movie.
Mm-hmm.
It just from the opening scene, like I said before, to the ending credits, it's just...
it's incredible.
It's stellar.
It is. And the last time we saw it, we went to see the 3D version which I didn't know this at the time, but Spielberg apparently chose a team of guys, like the best in the business, to go through shot by shot so that every single shot in the film had been specifically tweaked for 3D effect.
Okay, wow.
So, and I wasn't expecting that. So when we went in to see into the theater, I was thinking, oh, this will be kind of fun. I was totally shocked. I was like, this is just incredible.
Yeah, it looked like it had been filmed for 3D.
It did.
You have to see this if you haven't seen the 3D.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if you're a Jaws fan in any way, you have to go, because especially like the water coming right up, lapping on the camera. It's like, you feel like you're right in the scene.
It was amazing. I was totally stunned, and I kept saying to you, this is incredible.
Yeah, we were both just astounded, and to see our favorite movie in that format was just like we were completely immersed in the film.
Yes.
So not only did we have the experience of watching it and back in the day, and we actually saw it again a few years ago. There's a local theater that shows it as one of their summer, but it's still the 2D version. And then last year we saw it in 3D. It was just
it was like watching it new again.
Yeah,
it really
new
was.
Again, and like on a roller coaster ride.
Yeah,
it's just you already know what's going to happen, but you're completely immersed in the film itself.
That's right.
Unbelievable.
It was, and I don't know if I told you this, but when we were watching it, there was when they're out on the water during the hunt at the end, the last quarter of the film or whatever it is, there was a scene when it was just of the orca, and I was looking at it and watching. It was, I think, when they were trying to pull the rope from the back of the boat. They were trying to pull the barrels towards the boat.
Okay. Yeah.
And for this moment, I had the smell of seawater in my senses. You know that kind of, when you're out on a boat, there's this certain kind of sensory thing, the smell of the water and I don't know how to describe it, but
or the motion.
Yeah, and the motion. I actually went into that zone for a second, and I was like, wow, what a trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, one of the other scenes that I thought was really great with the 3D was when the two guys are out on the dock And they got
Yes.
the wife's ham or
Yes.
roast.
Yeah.
And the shark takes it away. You never see the shark in the film.
Yeah.
In that scene, I mean. But, it's the way that it just yanks it out and yanks the dock out.
Yes.
And the guy's like crawling.
And when the dock turns around in the
Yes,
water.
of course. Another menacing scene without actually using the mechanical shark is, just filmmaking brilliance.
It was that scene. Now that you bring it up, I remember thinking that particular scene, when you'd see it in a regular movie theater, since it was so dark, it kind of wasn't. It wasn't as impactful,
right?
But in 3D and what they did to it, it made it like a different experience. It was like, whoa, this is intense. Yeah.
I remember that scene, though. It did affect me too. When we first saw the movie, because it definitely sets the mood. There's no music during the first part of that scene, so it's just quiet, and the guys are just kind of whistling and sort of just, let's see what happens.
Yeah, and then suddenly,
So you really get one more thrill. Thank you, Steven Spielberg.
Totally. It's kind of like all of the elements. There's a synchronicity or something. Like there was something that was all of the right people, including the person they chose to score the film. The editing is brilliant. The cinematography is brilliant. There's these certain films where everything was just right.
With all of it together, there is something more divine involved, I think, than just
there's a magic.
Right. There's a magic that's somehow it just falls together.
Yes.
And it becomes completely iconic.
Yeah, it really is amazing. Thank you, everyone, for watching part 1 in my 2-part series on the Jaws phenomenon. I hope you'll tune in to episode 2 because I'm going to talk a lot more about the effect that Jaws had on my life as a kid. I'm also going to share some Super 8 movie footage I took when I went to Universal Studios in 1977. Not only had the Jaws attraction just opened, but they were starting to promote Jaws 2. In fact, I went to hear Jeannot Schwartz speak about Jaws 2, and he premiered the Jaws 2 trailer for the audience before anyone else had ever seen it. I have a recording of that I'm going to share with you that is really cool. I'm also going to talk about the infamous Mr. Jaws, the hit single from 1975. I have a really funny recording of me as an 11-year-old kid discussing what a big hit Mr. Jaws was. You've got to check it out. Don't forget to subscribe.